Edinburgh, capital of Scotland, where a cityscape and a landscape combine to epitomise the very rugged elegance of Scotland herself. Everywhere you look, the past has carved, gouged and moulded its reminders into the very fabric of the present. A past that is in fact, a past that is in fantasy, a present that is in us. But whether it's how we see ourselves, or how others see us, there are elephants in this room, and there they are, the Jacobite cityscape. Nowadays we are often uncomfortable about the Jacobites. We can be uncomfortable regarding our own lack of knowledge and understanding of our own past. Uncomfortable of the very idea of which the Jacobites have come to symbolise.
It is this lack of understanding, more than anything, more than the garishness, more than the crass tastelessness, that has left us, turned us recoiling, cringing at our own culture as if that culture itself was kitsch.
But our culture is in many ways the victim of its own success. What nation wouldn't give its eye teeth for such a vibrant, distinctive, strong and instantly recognised international branding? Our culture was and is so strong that the architects of the Union could not eradicate it. Plans to present the Union as an incorporating Union clearly and immediately failed. So what could they, those members of the elite who had opted to further their personal opportunities through Hanoverianism, the Union and the burgeoning British Empire, what could they do with this strong culture? This threat to their new hegemony, this persistent, self-confident yet dissenting voice of genuine culture in the face of their own unfettered greed. They invested their souls in the pop-up dynasty of the Hanoverians. What of this pop-up dynasty? What could the Hanoverians do in the face of a genuine and authentic culture? They would resort to fake news, spin and negative agendas. Aye, in this, if not human values, they were strangely modern. Controlling the narrative can be the most powerful method of all. History gifted the Hanoverians an advantage that they have until now never lost. They won at Culloden. Little worry that in the roar, blood and appalling, vicious aftermath of that watershed moment they displayed to humanity the full horror of their cruel tyranny. A tyranny that was carried around the world as a template for empire, for the narrative was theirs. They got to tell the winner's tale. Scottish culture, both of ancient long-standing and of its dynamism in the ever-present, was indeed too strong, too rooted to eradicate, however. But that winner's tale began the subtle and not so subtle play of subverting us and our culture through a form of embarrassing inferiority. We were skillfully ushered from a settled confidence towards false binary choices, cringe or braggartism, each as bad, as shallow, as kitsch as each other. And so all around us, Jacobitism and its trappings were quietly cut away from the genuine origins of the movement itself. And so the paradigm of the shortbread tin was born. To the rest of the world there wasn't a problem. We were colourful, distinctive and attractive. None of the high politics survived on the shortbread tin. And at home, with a narrative which studiously avoided analysis, meaning, fairness or compassion, our very natural search for meaning, for understanding and for identity would now lead us to confusion, alienation and cringe. Cringe from which the only escape seemed via a braggartism as tasteless as the cringe itself. One of Scotland's greatest writers and folklorists, Hamish Henderson, makes his distaste for this quite clear in this verse of his greatest song, Freedom Come All Ye.
Nae mair will the bonny callants march to war when our braggarts cruisely craw, nor we wains frae Pithead and Clachan mourn the ships sailing down the broomy law. Broken families and lands we've herried will curse Scotland the brave, nae mair, black and white, yin till ither married, mak the vile barracks o' their maisters bare.
Meanwhile, the Jacobites, defeated and ridiculed, were now amplified, subverted and repackaged as a safe Scotland. A jovial half-brother with a good singing voice but nae sense.
Sensible Scots got on with their education and their wise, dull conformism. Thrawn and God-fearing, they sought salvation through service to the Empire.
Burns Night was a mawkish opportunity to let out steam, and once a year was quite enough to contain the demiurge. It didn't do to dwell too long on Burns in case one noticed our genius poet and folklorist himself's frequent and heartfelt Jacobitism. If Scottishness were needed, the repackaged Jacobites, ludicrous and tame, were just the job. Walter Scott didn't invent Scotland. Walter Scott didn't invent tartan. But as a man with a blockbuster narrative, he did as much to recreate Scottishness as a curious cultural devolution as anyone. He set up the new gutless paradigm. He wrote Waverley, where the appeal of Jacobitism is explored and celebrated for being of the substance of the heart. It is allowed a trot round the ring in its colour and in its joy. Waverley was a smash hit all around the world. The fictional heroes of the Jacobite fantasy, Fergus and Flora McKeever, won their way into the hearts of everyone. This blockbuster novel, widely regarded as the world's first historical novel, shepherds its romance neatly into the paddock. The conclusion is clear. Jacobite is all well and good in the flurry of the yearning heartbeat, but it must of course always follow the stern sense of the head. Edward Waverley's salvation and happiness are achieved when, like a good boy, he abandons his Jacobite notions and returns once more to the formal security of his fellow dullards in Unionist Hanoverianism. With the narrative firmly established through his novel, Scott has contained his own tartan yearnings and sold himself and the world a narrative of Scottishness that explains the joy of losing. When in 1822 he brings George IV up to Edinburgh to dress up as the new Bonnie Prince and recreate Charlie's acclaimed and hugely popular court at Holyrood, the die was set. And now, with the monarch, the gentry as well as men on the make, all dressed up like Jacobites, including much of the Hanoverian army, we have the perfect subversion of a threatening counterculture. Scottishness is now separated from and void of all its original meaning. This former threat is reduced to kitsch in the power of negative spin, ridicule, patronisation and fake news. Job done. The Jacobites are now tame and fake. They are now a tool of cultural confusion and, rather than uniting Scots from different Scottish cultures, as genuine Jacobitism had done, they are now a tool of that British favourite, divide and rule. The ludicrous, repackaged Jacobites were and are such a powerful metaphor for all Scottish culture that even William Wallace, from 400 years before Bonnie Prince Charlie, in that other blockbuster feature Braveheart, had to be played by Mel Gibson dressed not as Wallace, but as a kilted Jacobite in order to attract recognition of his Scottishness. But was it really job done? The power of symbols is not so easy to dictate. Even kitsch can be knowing and more, much more than that. the power of symbols can be reclaimed, reappropriated, and redefined. Our culture, although presented piecemeal or ignored or subverted, has proved to be too deeply rooted to properly eradicate. Our cultural icons are too strong to be totally reduced to kitsch. True kitsch is devoid of integrity and meaning. Once folk revive or attach new meanings or a combination of reappraisals, there is a genuine culture reasserting itself. And, in the case of Scotland, this has been quietly happening for years. Symbols and memes are reclaimed. Scotland is studied, relearned, and reloved. The Jacobites are back! Nowadays, people are Jacobites in the sense that they are the people who value the primacy of Scottish culture. Scottish culture is their culture, not a subset of a supposedly better Blue Peter culture. This time, it's on their own terms. They never really went away. Jacobitism isn't really what it was anyway. It was never about kings. It was about us. And Jacobitism wasn't really what they said it was anyway. It wasn't fake. It wasn't kitsch. People were prepared to and did die for it. But while we Scots are now on a good road, we still have distance to march in order to reclaim that primacy of our own culture which we enjoyed before Culloden. Jacobitism, both real and romantic, can be understood best as the only conduit, until recent times, of defiant Scottish national feeling. It has been fashionable in recent years to deny that the Jacobite conflicts were a case of Scotland versus England. Maybe so. But when the guns fell silent at around 1 p.m. on April the 16th, 1746 on Drumossie Moor, the Battle of Culloden had ended. And, whoever it was who fought, Scotland had definitely lost. So what did we lose? We lost ourselves as ourselves, while becoming a misunderstood, chiefly misunderstood by ourselves, subset of Britishness, within which we became, by general assumption, other. Our culture as Scots meant that we were an other culture of the UK, where English is British and things other than English are other. Not mainstream us, we became a them in our own country.
No wonder that we drink.